Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sacred Rainbow Warrior. How are you all doing? I know I'm finding it pretty tough at the moment with these current energies. The astrology's wild, and they're performing more devil worship at the Grammys. Um, my partner and I were wondering, we had a really great day on what day is it today? Friday, on Wednesday, and then yesterday hit us like a ton of bricks, and so we channeled our guides, and they said that they mentioned the Grammys and devil worship, and everybody's wondering why the world hasn't changed yet. Well, stop worshipping the devil, and maybe we'll get somewhere. So, today is a really personal episode, and there is a risk that I might shed some tears because this is a very, very, very dark part of my life, actually, that completely changed who I was and everything. Because today I'm talking about violence. Violence is silence. Um, how do I know this? Well, a lifetime of violence, yes, and I'll go into that. But I've been on a really profound medicine journey with my partner. There's not many people who would dare sit in front of a woman they just met and confess all of their narcissistic, egoic judgments and projections on the feminine and himself, just to uh, find his joy again. Anyway, um, the violence. How do I know this? Well, in my medicine journey, um, we, or I'll talk about myself. Um, the work of medicine can be dangerous when you aren't guided. And one of the things that I was led to was exorcism. The removal of demonic entities and energies. And before before 2019, I never believed in any of that until I saw it and felt it. Now, whether they're real or not is irrelevant, because we kind of create them through our own creative ability, the third eye and projections and stuff like that. So in some regards, they're not real, but also they are. But um, I came face to face with many demons on my medicine journey, and some of them were really difficult, as you can imagine. Some were really funny because they thought they were they thought they were powerful, let's say. But when you understand love, there's no such thing as a powerful demon. They're actually very weak. But if you pay them enough attention and if you give them enough love, which is what's happened to the majority of the collective, then they take a deep-rooted hold. And so some of them were very strong, very difficult to get rid of. One of the most difficult ones to get rid of is actually the demon of doubt. Doubt makes you not believe in others, not makes you not believe in life, makes you not believe in yourself, and it makes you censor yourself because you doubt your own truth. And that's another reason why I'm sharing my voice. It's integration, really, to remove the censorship from my voice. But the most despicable demon I ever met was violence. It was crazy. I've never experienced this with any other entity before. But I used to speak to them, which is in hindsight the worst thing, worst thing I could ever have done. Never entertain a demon, and um, it put a knife to my throat, and I could feel it. I could literally feel it. I could feel this energetic knife being held against my throat, and it refused to leave. And it said, "Why would I leave? I've got enough power. I have power." And I've been coming to terms with the energy of violence because it's so big for me because I've been violently beaten most of my life from a very young age. from family violence, and then leaving that part of my family, and then it following me in life. And I mean literally, like I would go up the road and someone would hit me around the head with a bat, go up and see my friends get a fat lip from a gang of men. And then I went to university, and I had my head used as a football after being split open on the edge of a concrete curb at 3 o'clock in the morning, after having lots of alcohol. And the after that incident, that main incident where he used my head as a football for like well over a minute, it completely changed my whole life because it changed the makeup of my brain, and I became overly analytical, very cautious. And eventually I was, when I was about 20 years later, went for a diagnosis, and they told me I had, all these letters, CPTSD and all that nonsense. But I mean, I call it nonsense now, but it actually really helped me at the time because it helped me identify, oh yeah, okay, I do have something to aim towards to heal, that I do have an issue. And that really helped me. So it's not nonsense, but also partly is because a lot of people hold on to these as baggage, and they fall in love with it and they don't get rid of it. And we're told it is not curable, and that's absolutely beep, beepity beep beep. That's why I call it nonsense. It's the same with a lot of these things. They all originate from many different things, but I want to stay on violence. That night when I had my head kicked in, I woke up the next morning completely unaware of. I'd been taken to the hospital. Two guys they weren't even doctors; they were training nurses. Put two stitches in my head and didn't give me any uh, diagnosis or chats about my mental health or anything. And so I woke up the next morning, and the whole room was spinning, and I wanted to vomit, so I had to keep one foot on the floor. And I felt horrendous. I cannot describe to you how a 6 week concussion feels. 6 weeks I had concussion for. And every night for 2 weeks, I had to sleep with one foot on the floor. Otherwise, the whole room would spin. I'd want to just projectile vomit everywhere. And I was pretty strong back then, and probably stronger than I have been in the spiritual journey to be able to go through that and just continue going. Though I did turn to alcohol, which was really, really damaging, but I was pretty strong considering what I'd been through. But what I want to remember and what I want to tell you, which links to the picture I put on this video, is the elephant. And yeah, I talk a lot about animal wisdom, and I'm starting my animal podcast again, which I ended last year, from next week, because there are great mirrors, and when you understand the meaning behind them, not the stuff that's on Google, the stuff that I've discovered through my spiritual journey when I channel them and speak to them directly, the wisdom is unbelievable. It's incredible. It change your life. And the elephant is so big that it's taken me years, and I still don't fully understand it because it's that big. It's energetically, it's invisible because it's so big. That's why they call it the elephant in the room, because you can't see it because it's so big and everyone's ignoring it. And its main message is to remember, but it's also sovereign. It sits in the crown. Think Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababwa. He has all those elephants. The When I woke up, I managed to stand up, and I was in these halls of residence, really small room, a single plastic mattress, and I had a sink in my room. And I managed to stand up really slowly. I felt really dizzy and really sick. And I walked over to the sink, leant on the sink like this, and I just slowly lifted up. And I looked in the mirror, and what I saw absolutely horrified me. Without any exaggeration, I've put a picture of the elephant man on the front of this the thumbnail of this video. That's kind of how I looked. One, because he kicked one side of my face repeatedly for about a minute and a half, but I had my hands up, so there were no cuts. But so he kicked my knuckles, and I essentially I beat myself. I can laugh at it now. I can laugh at it now, but it's been 20 years of difficulty. It happened when I was in my first year of university. I think I just turned 19. It's only 6 months in. Happened at the end of March. And it was really violent, really aggressive, and even his mates tried to stop him, and he was bigger than me, and I'm 6'1". So the when I looked in the mirror, I had tennis balls sized and shaped like golf balls and tennis balls just all sticking out here, my mouth and lip like this. I looked horrendous. And all I could do was I couldn't open my jaw. I could only put a straw in and drink liquid. And 3 days later, the police turned up and they were shocked. When they opened the door, they were like, whoa. And I managed to get the courage to put on some clothes and go see the doctor, which was about 500 meters walk from my room. And I put a cap on to cover my enormous head. And, and nobody saw me, thank God. And I remember I'll never forget this. I went in, the receptionist was typing away on her computer. She went, hello. It's a really stern voice, like, I'm busy. What is it? And I said, I need to see the doctor, please. And she goes, is it urgent? And I said, yes, it's very urgent. And she looked up at me and she was like, she literally went like that. I'll get the doctor right away. And the doctor was lovely, but he said, there's nothing to I can do to help you. You're probably going to think you'll be going crazy for about a year and you'll have nightmares and stuff. He completely underestimated what I went through. I still have nightmares to this day. But they were really bad. They were so bad that sometimes I would be in shock for hours afterwards. And thinking you were going crazy, well, that's a huge understatement. I pushed everyone away from me. I became a completely different person. I couldn't be who I was. And I want to share something with you. Because it's such a big win for me, I couldn't channel directly what I needed to. So I asked my partner, and she's an incredible channeler, and she channeled the elephant for me. And the elephant said, I quote this, I had my spirit and belief beaten out of me, and I was made to believe I was worthless, and I was knocked down from my birthright of sovereignty. I was banished from my own connection to my divine sovereignty and bullied out of my sense of belonging, my right of having a home in the tribe. My power was so strong it took several men to try and take me down, but no one could. So I had to leave that part of myself to save my life and sacrifice my sense of belonging, casting illusions of not fitting in and projecting this onto my handsomeness. As the wounds on my head were so great, I attached to the vision of deformity of the elephant man, body dysmorphia, through being banished. But it also saved my life. And like elephants are great pilgrimage trackers, I walked far and wide to finally find a sense of belonging with Hazel, my beloved. Now, the bit where she says multiple men, it wasn't that occasion. The elephant that she channeled, the spirit was talking about my whole life because I've been beaten so many times. You're probably thinking, well, he must have been a right dickhead. No, I wasn't. I was actually a really nice guy, and that's probably why. But I learned my lesson. When I left university, I came home. I met an old friend from school, and I learned martial arts. I learned how to not fight and how to defend myself. So I don't have a fear of that anymore. I learned a lot: Krav Maga, Kung Fu, Wing Chun, Kyokushin, Muay Thai, lots of things. But I never really enjoyed it because I never really enjoyed hitting other people. A surprise, surprise. And this energy of violence has stayed with me for so long, and it's taken me this long to realize that spiritually, the integration to overcome violence is to share your voice because violence doesn't want you to do that. And I'm talking about this because this is my, this is a series about censorship. I'm talking about the censorship of you as well, the censorship of society. They use violence to threaten us. Now, you could even go as deep and wide to say that the censorship that YouTube puts on these videos, there is a threat there, a threat of consequence of being banned or getting a warning. And I know that's only small, but it still has that energy of violence. And that's why a lot of people are really scared to share their voice. I mean, a lot of people are using AI voices at the moment. I think that's absolutely crazy. This is how scared people are of sharing their voice. And I spoke about free speech in the previous one. And I hope I don't get a warning for this video, right? And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, we shouldn't have to. I mean, it's common sense that you don't start saying really horrible things about people, right? That's not free speech. Like I said in the previous video, free speech is about speaking your heart, right? But love has been censored. Again, previous video. And if we do speak up with threatened with censorship, and this is the same spiritual energy as violence and punishment, it is silencing. And what that does is it steals power. Violence steals power. And um, learning to fight, I said about learning martial arts, learning to fight is not the answer. Fighting is not the answer. Physical violence against violence just breeds violence. That's not the answer. It's really standing for love and standing for what you believe in. And I'm not saying let yourself get your head kicked in. Of course, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, yeah, of course, learn to defend yourself. I spent over 10 years trying to do that until I felt safe enough. And there are people out there who want to fight because of that energy of violence that they've experienced. If I take my experience of violence, what it is it's a false transmission of love, right? And it comes from fear and jealousy. Violence comes from fear and jealousy because it's a coward's way out of the heart. Instead of facing the heart and fighting for what you hold dear, you destroy it. And when you're punching someone else, you're punching yourself. And but the compassionate side of it, which is very difficult to see, I've had to see this in my journey to overcome the amount of violence I've received from people, is that people who are express violence are in pain. And instead of feeling that pain, they dish it outwards into an energy of destruction and love. It's a really distorted version of love. It's also a cry out for help. It's sad. Um, but I also see how I remember I was in London once and I saw this fight break out um, in the middle of Clapham. It's quite happens quite a lot in London, surprise, surprise. And I remember someone shouted out, "You just want to have sex with him." And I really stuck with me, and I was like, "What is that?" And I looked into it, and it's to do with sexuality. The again the voice, right? The voice is the transmission and expression of our life force, right? But violence is a force over life. A man who stands in fear of another man and wants to hurt him is afraid of that man's love. And that love can be defined through the vibration of life force. Like I said, as also known as sexuality. And I'm going to do a video on this about the rainbow and how that's been hijacked for people's sexuality. And the sexuality isn't defined as sex, right? That's the first thing people think about because it's got the word sex in it, sexuality. It's not defined as sex between two men in this instance. It's defined as a great comfort, that purity of sharing life force energy, creative energy between two men is true brotherhood. um, it's great comfort between two men by mirroring each other. But if one is shining brighter than the other, there can be conflict if the other person um, isn't pure enough, because the light highlights the fear and impurities in the heart, and it can sometimes trigger jealousy or grandiosity within them. Um, and because they believe in that, if the other man is shining bright, that love hurts them because it's highlighting the shame. And when the truth when the truth is highlighted, sometimes jealousy and betrayal comes up because that hurts the heart, and so that's where violence originates from. So, in my example, like I said, I was beaten for I don't know how many years, a long time, and most of the time I used to go into school covered in black and blue, black and blue in bruises. And it made me really hard. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I'm a hard man. I mean, it made my skin and my body really, what's the word? Really resistant to bodily harm. And so when I came to martial arts, it was I found it very difficult to feel pain because the violence that I had received, not only had it hardened me, but I had dissociated. That's what violence does. It shuts down your heart. You disassociate from pain. And I remember I went through tremendous physical harm, let's say, in physical fights, street fights, and martial arts. And I always stood up afterwards. I remember I was helping my friend do a seminar for Krav Maga in front of 80 people, and he went off script and he kicked me in the nuts. And everyone was like, "Oh," and everyone expected me to hit the floor, but I stood up. It really hurt, but I stood up. And that's how disassociated I became from pain. It's really powerful, and it's taken me a long time to reclaim my sense of belonging, and that belonging isn't just about being here. Yes, if it's being here and feeling safe, like that in that channeling from the elephant, but it's about belonging in my heart. And this is the problem that a lot of men have, especially those men that have been beaten, is how do you feel your heart? How do you open your heart? And if you've been beaten as long as I have, it's very difficult. I've had to train myself in my spiritual journey over the last 4 years, and there's no one answer. That's why people who haven't received violence in their life, they can't fully understand why people are so ignorant and shut down. It's because they can't access their heart, right? And it's this specifically and especially poignant for men. Like my partner's never received physical violence, and she's 99% of the time in her heart. And I'm like, how do you do that? How? And so I've been learning all the different methods on how to do that, and I'm going to share that in a book. It's called The Art of Integration to help men open their hearts because it's been extremely difficult. Because violence is essentially it's the student of misery and tragedy, and violence is tragic, especially for the person on the receiving end. I'm sure you've heard many times of a man just getting punched once and that's it, he's dead. And there's the tragedy of that death, and there's a tragedy of that man that gets locked up who was just defending himself, or worse, you know, whatever. And I've heard this happening many times, and that's the energy of tragedy. And there is a turn the table version on violence. And I'm going to talk about bullying as well. Bullying is also violence. I spoke about this in on one of my interviews, is that because I was beaten so often, it's like narcissism. you can't be a narcissist unless you've been received narcissistic abuse, right? And everyone's received narcissistic abuse. That's why I say everyone has expresses narcissistic behavior to a small degree, and um, that bullying causes the energy that is trapped inside the body causes us to bully ourselves and be violent to ourselves, be narcissistic to ourselves, because violence doesn't understand vibration, doesn't understand the vibration of love. And so it uses physicality to communicate. And I'm talking, this demonic energy, not through love, because it's a distortion. And it comes from a deep state of uncontrollable lust for control and death sometimes. It takes you to the edge, it takes you to the abyss of worthiness, and tries to stamp out your light, your belief that you deserve to be here. And it steals light, it steals power, and the life force that it steals is like when you receive violence, it steals a part of you. That's what happened to me when I get my head kicked in. I lost a part of myself. That's what came through in the channeling, right? Now, when you lose a part of yourself, you become very unhappy, and the more parts of yourself you lose, you start to head towards death, right? And the level of devotion that it takes to climb out of that is really difficult. That's why I have compassion for toxic men in some degree, because I've been through that. I was part of the toxic patriarchy. I bought that lie, and I've spent, the I've spent so much devoted spiritual work to getting a full refund plus interest from all those lies I bought about what it is to be a man. And the suppression and the stealing of the soul is the suppression of life force. Life force is who we are, so sexuality, right? And you think about men or women who have chosen to be, for lack of a better term, gay, queer, lesbian, whatever, and they've been bullied or violently abused for it. That is again a mirror of the person who's creating the violence of their own sexuality. Not saying that they're the gay, queer, or lesbian, but the the power of their sexuality. Because when somebody comes out, you take the energy of pride, for example. When someone comes out in their sexuality and they say they're gay, there's such a huge relief for them, and they become very expressive, right? And that's the true passion of being who you truly are. And if a person can't be that, and they see that person shining their light like that, and they have a violent upbringing, they will try and stamp that out, and that's where it comes from. That stealing of life force, and all of these distortions that we have to deal with in a society that's ransacked by enslavement and control, all leads back to stealing of life force. It's all comes back to sexuality. And sexuality is creation, it's creative energy. You look at the womb, yeah, or you look at how men and women create children. The man deposits a sperm, which is like a deposit, um, an energy of giving life, and then the woman receives that energy of life and then creates life, right? And that's all done through life force energy. And that is the energy of creation. And the energy of creation is the highest form of love there is because of the creator. The creator is love, so love is creation. And this is something I've had to learn from the feminine on my journey because it's so big, and untamed and so multi-dimensional, and it can't be understood through logic, only through feeling. And you can only feel it through the heart. And so you can imagine how difficult that's been for me, for someone who's been dissociated for so long from physical violence. Because if you think about when a fist hits something or someone, that energy is transferred, the kinetic energy. And if it has malice behind it, that malice is transferred into the person's body. Now, I've been punched, I don't know how many times, right? So just imagine how much spiritual purification work I've done to be able to laugh about that. That's devotion. That's devotion. And the antidote, like for example, right, I'm not saying okay, what am I trying to say? So martial arts, right, there's a purity to it, and there's a purity to fighting. There's not going out and looking for it, but there is a purity to it. Now, for me personally, I understand and I believe that one day, because I dropped martial arts and anything to do with punching or fighting so that I could understand violence and clear it from my body. And now I'm coming back into retraining myself, and I don't know how that's going to look, but my soul is teaching me everything. I don't have to learn from teachers now. I've gone to such a deep and divine level that I've unlocked my innate, and my innate teaches me my body how to move. Sometimes I will be doing some exercises, and I'll just let my innate take over, and it will start moving and doing things on its own, and be doing stretches and stuff like that. And it started making me do moves in martial arts that I've never done before. I've seen them in movies, but and I don't know what that means yet. But I know there's a purity of it. There's a purity of movement, and I think it's to do. Yeah, okay, it's coming to me now. So one of the animals I work very closely with is the praying mantis, and it's about reverence to movement. And the mantis is one of the six Chinese animals of martial arts in Kung Fu. And through my own wisdom, I've learnt that the praying mantis is about the reverence to movement. It's called the reverent warrior, and that's part of who I am. And so I'm learning how to be more reverent to movement, and I think that martial arts um, was born from that. I think it was born from movement. Like I've channeled Egyptian gods, and they laugh at yoga because that's not what it was originally meant for. They were called power moves back then, and it to me, I think it's all to do with shamanism. But martial arts turned into a devotion to fighting and self-defense when war arrived, and the desolation of I spoke about this previously in the other video about our what's the word? Our oh, what's the word? What is it? What is it? What is it? Uh, our 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 sanctity, our oh, it doesn't matter, it'll come back to me. The destruction of what like our way of living, let's just call it, the destruction of that, and our traditions, our cultures, our ancient cultures, our ancient ways of living, all of that was defended. Look at Chinese martial arts. They use farming weapons. Nunchucks were used to for the rice, and the sais were garden forks. They weren't meant for violence, but that's how they ended up being used. So, um, come full circle back to censorship. Violence is a really powerful demonic energy that tries to silence us. And I think more and more of us are going to learn to speak up and share our voice in the face of violence. And I think there doesn't need to be violence. There doesn't. Yeah, there should definitely be reverence to movement. Absolutely, but there should be no violence, not anymore. I don't even agree with boxing or UFC. It's not a sport. I think it's barbaric. But I do believe that there will be something new in the future, and it might be similar, but there might be a different energy to it. But the way it happens at the moment is two egos come together and bash each other's heads in. I don't, but hey, that's just my opinion. Anyway, I would love to hear some comments and questions from you about censorship or share your story of violence. I'd love to know more. And thank you for listening. I will be doing more videos on censorship. Ciao for now, and big up yourselves.